Paul.
Hello Kim, welcome to the Sunshine Coast.
Yes, beautiful. So Paul, you will be running for the seat of Fisher as a candidate. Tell us a little bit about yourself, but firstly, why did you want to become a candidate and why Love Australia or Leave Party?
Okay, two very good questions. I think like many people around Australia, I'm sort of fed up with our politicians not listening to us, seem to have their own interests in mind with all their decisions and everything else, and not putting Australians first. So I sort of one night, disheartened, went online and just started researching One Nation policies and Clive Palmer's policies and Bob Katter's policies and things like that, and I came across the one Love Australia or Leave Party. So I read through, and the main sort of dozen or so issues and policies that you stand for resonated sort of 90% with how I felt and bits and pieces of where the country should be headed and the issues that needed to be addressed. So I sort of made a few more inquiries and had a look at the party a little more and thought, this is the party for me, and it's the first political party I've ever been a part of. So here we are.
Wow, and that's interesting. It's not the first time that somebody has said, look, you're the only political party that I've first joined, or, our policies aren't just about one or two issues, they're quite across the board. And I remember speaking with you and you said to me, you've got a broad range of policies. I mean, the media, as you know, the media will pick one or two policies, call them controversial, which they're not, but, they'll pick one or two. But, like we have so many issues in our country that, where do we start? I mean, water, why have we not got our water right in this country? Where's our water security? Poor drinking water, no water at all, and we're trucking water into different towns now. It's insane.
And that's exactly right. We've got places that are flooding that could quite easily, with the right plans in place and everything else, be avoided or reduced. Areas of drought, which with the same policies can sort of be twofold and work both ways. It can sort of help flood-proof some areas and drought-proof the others at the same time.
So we have the Bradford scheme for that. So we want to revisit that. We want to see pipelines crisscrossing our nation. I mean, why have we not got water pipelines when we're laying down the gas pipes? Down in the middle of Australia, we can set them all up and, designate the water and transport it to where we need it in times of flood.
Exactly right. And to lay an extra pipeline beside the oil and water lines while they're doing it doesn't cost a lot of money.
No.
While the machines and the manpower and everything's there doing it, to lay 3 lines instead of 2 doesn't cost an extra third. It costs minimal.
Yeah.
Minimal amount.
But how amazing that we're decades, I mean, we're talking decades, 4 decades or more behind when it comes to this, because it's always brought up, but every government that gets in, just knock each other's policies, and we're not moving forward in Australia. And I want to see the long-term plans. Australia needs to really start to think big and have long-term visions and goals.
And that's where most of the people I speak to think the same. Most politicians seem to be doing, what can I do for the next 3 years to get re-elected? They're not looking at what can I do and start rolling into place for the next 10 or 15 or 20 years that'll be better for the country and better for the Australian citizens down the track. They're all just got this little short-term tunnel vision, not the long-term goal and vision that we want in our politicians. Yeah.
And that's what we want to be. We want to be a party with long-term goals and have visions that are no longer just election to election, and have 20-year plans, 30-year plans, because otherwise we're going to continue to go backwards.
Oh, exactly. And like some councils are sort of doing the right thing, putting in water meters and things like that. Where we live here on the Sunshine Coast, water meters went through in 1991. Before that, they had water restrictions every year. Once the water meters went in, people were paying for water. The water restrictions never came into place because people weren't wasting the water like they used to before. So things like that are baby steps and sort of minor, but it all helps in the big picture. But the coast is just growing at such a huge rate, and we've got some very big dams, but they could be bigger, they could be higher, they could hold more water, because quite often in drought situations they get very low and people start to get worried. And
look, we've already had millions, if not billions, spent in feasibility studies. You know, we can fast track them and start to
all the research has been done.
Yeah.
As you say, the Bradford scheme, a few little tweaks here and there, and put some funding towards it, and we're well underway.
And employment prospects. I mean, long-term projects.
And that's the thing. The
economy.
The flow-on effect and the big picture by government spending money on these projects. One, it stops the catastrophes, it stops the droughts, it creates employment. And then employment then rolls on, gives people then access to affordable housing because they've got incomes. Hopefully it will reduce the crime, which then flows on, reduces insurance policies.
Has a knock-on
It's
effect.
just this whole knock-on effect, you know. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and that's where
the short-sightedness, that's where the politicians are failing the people.
Exactly right. Let's put a band-aid on this. Let's not fix a bigger issue that'll then flow on and in itself fix half a dozen smaller issues that flow on from there.
Totally agree.